well as an option?
Well, firstly, I heard Mr. Lonergan say before that all the pressure was on Eddie Hearn. You know, for us, I believe all the pressure's on Joseph Parker. He has to deliver on Saturday night, and if he doesn't deliver on Saturday night against Dimitrenko, then everything that we're working on and planning on at the moment means nothing. I have always been a huge believer that it's good to have options, and the options that we have now, I think, are terrific. The fact that we have Klitschko on the hook, we've got Anthony Joshua on the hook, and now there is another even more exciting option for me to have Andy Ruiz, a fighter who I know very well, a fighter who is undefeated. He has a big promotional company behind him. Andy Ruiz is a fighter that when I first teamed up with Joe and brought Joe to Vegas, we sparred Andy a couple of times. After Joe had gone around various gyms in Vegas, sparring what was available, I managed to get together with Andy, who, by the way, before I started working with Joe, I was in meetings with Andy's manager because they were asking me to train Andy Ruiz. So when I took Joe to his gym the very first time, I don't know if you've heard the story before or not, but Joe had sparred probably 30 or 40 rounds around various gyms in Vegas. I took him along. Andy, when Joe got there, and let's remember this is Andy's home gym, and I brought this guy that I'm going to be training, and I'm not going to be training Andy. And Joe looked at him and he said, God, he looks like nothing. And he was just shadow sparring in slow motion. And then they gloved up a sparring partner, and Andy did 2 warm-up rounds with this guy. And Joe looked at me and he goes, Coach, you know, you said this guy's a killer. And I said, this guy can really fight. And he goes, I think I'll be fine. And I said, Joe, focus. I said, this guy is a very, very good fighter. And anyhow, I gloved Joe up, put him in there, and by the time Joe took 2 steps across the ring, Andy was on him and driving punches into the side of his head. And I just, you know, and this was right at the beginning of my time with Joe, and I was still learning things about Joseph Parker, and all I saw was Joe's eyes widen, and Andy was hitting him from the left side to the right side, and Joe thought he was surrounded. And he came back to the corner. I go, are you okay, mate? He goes, yeah, I'm okay, coach. I said, you sure? He goes, yep. And he never, like when he was getting hit, never closed his eyes, never turned around, showed me a ton of character. Sent him back out there in the second round, same thing, Andy's all over him. You know, just Andy had too many tools and too many skills for Joe at the time, and Joe just couldn't keep him off. And Andy's belting him from side to side in the ring. Third round, fourth round, the same. We lose every round. And Joe comes back and he goes, oh my God. And we're sitting in the car and he goes, Coach, I'm so sorry. And I went, Joe, what are you sorry for? And he goes, I'm sorry for today. I said, did you do your best? He said, yes, I did my best. I said, don't ever apologise to me when you've done your best. He said, will you bring me back in 1 week's time to spar him again? And I said, no, I won't, but I will bring you back. And I took him back 3 weeks later, and we sparred 6 rounds this time. Joe won half the rounds, which showed me and showed Joe how far he had come in a short time. And the time that we sparred Andy was 18 or 19-0. He was a North American champion. He'd been a pro for 4 years. He was a former Olympian, and he was the hottest prospect at that stage. This was 3 years ago. They asked us to come back one more time, and we get there, and Andy had his father there and teams, and they're all filming the sparring, and we actually filmed the sparring as well. And Joe went out there, we sparred him over 6 rounds and beat him every round, and outboxed him. And it just, you know, it showed me how fast Joe had developed and what sort of fighter he was turning into. So it's a guy that we know very well, and we've never been invited back to the gym since, and that's a story of like 3 years ago. But you know, Andy's an undefeated fighter. He's had many fights on high-profile cards. He's fought on Pacquiao cards a couple of times. So you know, he's been in front of big audiences. He's been waiting patiently for his opportunity. He's a well-trained guy, an undefeated fighter, well-respected. He's got good power. So it would make for a very exciting fight.
if you came to a crossroads and there's 3 paths leading in 3 directions and all were available, which one would you go down?
Well, you know, like that decision would obviously be a team decision. It would come from the company who pay all the bills. You know, and those things do factor into it. You know, when you outlay, I was going to say hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's more than hundreds of thousands of dollars over a period of 3.5 years. Millions. You know, well, I know, yeah, that's millions of dollars. So when you're outlaying money like that, you know, you do it for a reason, because this is a business, and a good business has to be profitable. So, you know, those decisions are carefully thought through, and hey, and it mightn't always be the biggest money that we'll go for. We'll go for the smartest path that will lead us to the biggest amount of money.
It would be the smartest option.
Which would be,
yeah.
Until we have all the facts and all the cards on the table, that smartest option is not being presented to itself. You know, at the moment, you know, as everyone knows, our focus has been Dimitrenko, a big, tall, very good fighter, a fighter who's lost twice in 15 years. So we've got a big task on hand. I believe that Joe's going to show the results of a very good training camp, working against a lot of big guys. And as we know, after this fight, there are other big guys out there for us to fight. So, all good?
Yeah.